This is what's wrong with the world today. They've really got us in a fix because of words, and it's ridiculous. He should be able to say what he wants to say, and again, you're refusing to show your intellect or use any sort of logic. Your status wasn't false, but it's based on a false premise, which I have very carefully dismantled. It's never too early or late to think about people who are not afraid, but may have been afraid, but spoke anyway. Anyway, it makes you look desperate when you use a tragedy for political purposes. I'm sorry, but that's insane if you don't think that blank, because their blank isn't blank. End of discussion. That's not a failure on their part, but it isn't also a success. It doesn't mean they made the best point ever. Thank you, finally someone speaking with some of the truth. It just means the centers didn't feel like engaging, but they were still overwhelmingly inactive. Where there does seem to be an absence of dialogue, I attribute that to individuals either recognizing the futility or annoyingness of engaging in debate. Of course not, but this status wasn't about that, so you bringing it up is just deflecting attention. I'm not about to be labeled. Honestly, though, why would you want that anyway? Despite what may happen, or no matter how many people rotate in and out of your life, make sure that you're at peace with yourself. When you stop fighting you, life becomes so much easier to deal with. If their spirit has no power to harm, then I don't care. Now, answer the question. There is no narrative. Take several seats. Otherwise, we're not having an intellectually honest debate. Wow, actually kind of laughed at some of the things you said. We'll have to agree to disagree. I'll never convince you, and you'll never convince me. However you think, if you think that's okay, I think it illustrates what is in fact a real problem. And the reason your argument fails is because your premise is wrong. The world is fucked. I'm gonna go get a spaceship from NASA and go camp out on Mars. There's always going to be the outlier, the one who represents us poorly, or who says the wrong thing, or, as we all would with a very volatile topic, expresses him or herself passionately rather than logically. And I think we see that on both sides. Because it is not the same. There is an endless supply of people who are ready and willing to inform us about what we are doing wrong and how we can alter our behavior and get ahead and inject magic and happiness into our lives. There's no shame anymore. No matter who or what you are, God knows the truth. You can lie about who or what you are, but you can't lie to him. Cite all of the bogus science you want, but I know better, just from life experience. I used your argument today with a coworker who was trying to convince me of cases where it is justified. I think something clicked. Thank you. I know you just friended me, and that will get reversed in about 5 seconds by speaking up on this, but this matters too much not to say anything. I'm going to assume you're both blank, and would like to offer you some wisdom about how to cohabitate on this planet with the opposite. If you have 1 ounce of compassion, please stay out of the choices. By not having gone through the experience, you do not have the capability to comprehend what you are asking. You are absolutely right with regards of my perspective, and identify the logical fallacy. I'm seriously over this kind of pushback you're getting. I have no idea what it's like to make that kind of choice. However, the original poster was referencing a conversation between me and another. I've avoided the topic like a root canal. These days, each time I express concern, outrage, disgust, or horror over another blank, which should come with warnings that they may produce nightmares. I think there may have been a misunderstanding. Not by default, but it is not rare either. The burden is highly uneven. So are you okay with qualifying? Absolutely. It certainly isn't auto mechanics. That's a true statement because I've heard all this line of logic before. It's flawed, it's political. At no time is a person monitored more if you're lucky, but most of the time they're really small-minded, so I can't change their minds. There seems to be this myth. No blank with that much turmoil. And really evaluating what they think is best, not just for themselves, but how to utilize their ability for the best for all. I'm convinced the souls come back when summoned at the right time. Nothing's lost but the potential to turn into a million things go right. And again, this is really none of your business. Shoot your opinion wherever you want, but that is where your say ends. You could justify anything / everything whatsoever that way, and I don't buy that you don't get to have an opinion unless it's mine argument. It's of general societal concern. Furthermore, if I don't get to say that public money should stop going to institutions, that ain't gonna happen. Another convenient myth. You still haven't directly addressed whether or not you believe that's its case, and I would argue because it is the case. And to acknowledge that would undermine the fundamental argument you're trying to make. What's on your mind? Debating online. It's harder to control tone in writing, so someone may seem more upset when she argues online than when she argues face-to-face, or the discussion may devolve into name-calling. Arguing on social media seems quasi-anonymous, which can also lead to name-calling, and it can be exhausting. When someone says you've changed, it simply means you've stopped living life their way. Truth is very much, but that simply hasn't happened. Talk to me when it does. Exactly. That is not evidence. That is a conclusion. Which is my point. You're using circular logic. The evidence is the data. And again, no, it's not. Circular logic. What other conclusion do you get from the data? And good lord, dude, learn to make a rational argument. We need the offline and online actions. The number of impressions on social media isn't massively useful in and of itself, and that's not going to lead to change. This kind of decision is difficult, but it's not unique to your situation. For you, is this livable? You see it as a system of power. I see it as a condition of the human spirit. Agreed upon, universal law, accepted as inevitability. Reinforce what? That I agreed with you? How is saying that I already answered when you were acting like a child, repeating yourself until you got what you wanted, reinforcing anything? No skeptics allowed? I know there probably aren't very many, people with the types of beliefs that I do in your circle of friends, but isn't art about listening to diverse viewpoints? It's smoke and mirrors. Come to find out, the reality is very different. I'm glad I only wasted a year. It's nice to have a clear understanding. And wouldn't you say that we've moved past those things? I would argue that you're delusional if you think we haven't. You might argue that it doesn't matter, that in fact we have moved past those things as a society, that it's now based on the way people feel, which can't be measured, and therefore can never be argued against. Where do you get that figure from? Just asking. Just for myself. Her support may be laced with traces of messages that subtly instill shame, guilt, or obligation. It's not usually the context of the statement, but rather the energy in which it's conveyed that can carry hidden resentment. They can isolate any set of data they find convenient to their cause, expounding bad analysis and peddling bad history to making outright false assertions, and probably doing so knowingly, which turns those assertions into what is technically known as lies. Should I tell a lie? You are a beneficiary of certain luxuries, benefits, and privileges. Whether you've asked for it or not, you are not afforded the luxury of avoiding this. Being uncomfortable is the least you could do. It's about acknowledging that you've been granted more space than everyone else and taking a step back. Just because one piece is undone / can be undone doesn't mean everything is perfect. You've repeatedly contradicted yourself in your own arguments. You repeatedly called me names I didn't deserve. You never actually found any falsehood in the above status or disproved anything. Why would you choose to ignore what other people say they feel, and thus dismissing them instead of listening? We imagine no one standing outside that circle, moving ourselves closer to the margins until the margins are erased. It's really your choice. Adapt or disrupt.